For it was not into my ear you whispered, but into my heart. It was not my lips you kissed, but my soul. Words of Judy Garland. Hello once again, I'm Don Jackson with a special Valentine webcast, my second on this new website. The website celebrates its first anniversary this month. It was Dostoevsky who believed only the heart knows how to find what is precious. So let's set it free and see if it comes back with a Valentine or two. Valentine hearts and flowers during this webcast on the heartbeat of the internet. If you live into your 70s and beyond, your heart will have had at least a few billion heartbeats. It pumps blood throughout the body every single day of our lives, or at least we hope it will do that. There is so much that we can do to our heart to cause it to miss a beat or need a surgical repair. But there is one thing there is no quick cure for: a broken heart. The only thing that mends that is time. Another point of view suggests that a heart's desire doesn't necessarily coincide with its state of health. Edward Howes Mathers translated this: a lovesick heart does when the heart is whole. For all the heart's health is to be sick with love. It's interesting how we ascribe so many emotional attributes to this organ that really only has one function. But if you stop to think about it, the heart is at the center of our being. Maybe there is something a little bit more to it. You might understand why the ancients believed this. The human heart really is an amazing organ, and some believe it is more than just a pump. It keeps us alive, and even with the amount of blood it has to pump, it still seems to have the capacity to hold all our love, our hopes, and our fears. But as I've said, it can be badly broken physically and emotionally. But no matter how broken, how much heartbreak there is, its ability to love is always intact. All it takes is someone to really care. It was Marcel Proust who said, "Love is space and time measured by the heart." P.J. Bailey said, "I have a heart with room for every joy." Now, if that is true, then how much room is there? Zelda Fitzgerald said, "Nobody has ever measured, even poets, how much the heart can hold." There are some wonderful lines in the film Practical Magic that starred Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman as sisters who have grown up in a family of witches. One of these lines we hear is when Sandra Bullock's character is writing a letter to her sister who is far away. She writes, "Sometimes I feel there's a hole inside of me, an emptiness that at times seems to burn. I think if you lifted my heart to your ear, you could probably hear the ocean." Her comments give us the sense that even empty, the human heart can contain something as vast as an ocean. But it still doesn't give us the sense of what it would take to fill that heart to overflowing. Edna St. Vincent Millay wrote, "The world stands out on either side, no wider than the heart is wide. Above the world is stretched the sky, no higher than the soul is high. The heart can push the sea and land farther away on either hand. The soul can split the sky in two and let the face of God shine through. But east and west will pinch the heart that cannot keep them pushed apart. And he whose soul is flat, sky will cave in on him by and by. Edwin Hubble Chapin wrote, "If you could take the human heart and listen to it, it would be like listening to a seashell. You would hear in it the hollow murmur of the infinite ocean to which it belongs, from which it draws the profoundest inspiration, and for which it yearns." Louise Driscoll wrote, "Within your heart, keep one still, secret spot where dreams may go." And Carl Sandburg from Alone and Not Alone in Honey and Salt wrote, "There must be a place, a room and a sanctuary set apart for silence, for shadows and roses." Do you remember the film As Good as It Gets? Starred Jack Nicholson and Helen Hunt. He certainly had a way with words and knew how to ruin the one thing he so desperately wanted. And yet, here was a man who wrote romance novels for a living, who knew the way into a woman's heart, but who was so mixed up in his own life, terrified that he might step on the crack in a sidewalk, that all that kept coming out were the most horrible words imaginable, words that cut like a knife. But he was about to make a change. All through the latter half of the movie, he was doing things that he never dared try before. It wasn't until he told her in so many words that she made him feel like he wanted to make something better of himself. She said it was the best compliment anyone had ever paid her. We don't always have to use the poetic language of a Shakespeare or a poet. Maybe all you need to do is let your heart do the talking. St. Jerome astutely observed, "The face is the mirror of the mind, and the eyes, without speaking, confess the secrets of the heart." Not all the secrets, I would hope. But consider this. The fourth finger of the left hand, where we wear our wedding ring, has special significance. The Greeks and Romans believed that a special vein ran from that finger straight to the heart. In the Reader's Digest collection, Why in the World, was this, and I quote, "This finger was always used to stir potions. As marriages were regarded as a matter of the heart, it was appropriate for the fourth finger of the left hand to carry the wedding ring." The Roman scholar Macrobius declared that with a ring on the medicated finger, the sentiments of the heart could not escape. End quote. Charlotte Bronte wrote, "The human heart has hidden treasures, in secret kept, in silence sealed." The poet Carl Sandburg, from Solo for Saturday Night Guitar in the collection Honey and Salt, wrote, "Heavy, heavy is love to carry, and light as one rose petal." This excerpt appeared in an article in the February 1998 issue of Victoria magazine, and I quote, "At the heart of the rose lies mystery and romance, stirring a passion like no other flower." Lucy Maud Montgomery believed, "I believe flowers have souls. I have known roses that I expect to meet in heaven." French writer Colette would have liked that quote. She wrote, "All of us wince when a rose, falling apart in a tepid room, lets go of one of its shell-like petals and sends it adrift into its own reflection on a smooth marble surface. The sound of its fall, very soft, distinct, is like a syllable of silence, and enough to move a poet." According to the book Penhaligon's Scented Treasury of Verse and Prose, edited by Sheila Pickles, and I quote, Nebuchadnezzar used them to adorn his palace, and in Persia, where they were grown for their perfume oil, petals were used to fill the Sultan's mattress. Pickles writes about the excesses of the Roman emperors. They, and I quote, sat on carpets of rose petals for their feasts and orgies. End quote. Those were extremely decadent times when the rich and powerful took everything to excess. But a movie like Bed of Roses shows us that you don't have to go to those extremes in order to be romantic. According to a list of romantic suggestions that come to us from Rock Island Technologies some years back, it is suggested that you could do more than Christian Slater did to fill his love's life with a bed of roses. You could fill your lover's day with roses. Place them on the pillow, in the shower, the kitchen table, the car, or any other place they go during the course of the day. At the end of the day, treat them to a candlelit dinner with a dozen roses or a gift. In a book of beautiful photographs called La Rose, published by Western Eye Press in Colorado, is this: roses have always blossomed as metaphors for emotion, sadness and joy, death and rebirth, great beauty and great passion. And rather than let them just wither and die, we hang them to dry and save their petals in a potpourri to make their moment last even longer. Percy Shelley said, rose leaves, when the rose is dead, are heaped for the beloved's bed. And so thy thoughts, when thou art gone, love itself shall slumber on. The year was 1904, when Louise Gluck wrote of a special place to hold her memories. A silver bowl shaped like a swan with roses for my bedside. That quote appeared in the February 1995 issue of Victoria. If we believe that there truly is something special about this flower, the rose, then it should be no surprise that they are sometimes placed in the privacy of one's bedroom, in order that they can be savored alone, that no other eyes should see their beauty. Rilke wrote, how many times I have seen you in a perfumed jewel box beside a lover's lock, or in a beloved book that one rereads alone. Alice E. Allen from My Mother's Garden wrote, sweet as the breath of roses blown, the fragrance of her life. I'd like to feature a few other quotes about this beautiful bloom, since this program is about hearts and flowers. It was George Eliot who said, I wish the sky would rain down roses as they rain from off the shaken bush. They would fall as light as feathers, smelling sweet, and it would be like sleeping and yet waking all at once. There's that fragrance again. Rilke writes, each petal consents and takes a few fragrant, invisible steps in the wind. Sandberg wrote, and her lips reminded people of deep red roses waiting in the cool of the summer evening. Hood wrote, 'Twas twilight, and I bade you go, but still you held me fast. It was the time of roses. We plucked them as we passed. The writer Mark Van Doren obviously was in a fragrant garden when he was inspired to write this. My love comes walking, and these flowers that never saw her till this day look up, but then bend down straight away. Henry Constable must have been in that same garden. My lady's presence makes the roses red, because to see her lips, they blush with shame. In the film My Fair Lady, based on Shaw's Pygmalion, an ill-mannered young woman who sells flowers is given a chance to become a refined lady, Most florists today are very well-mannered and knowledgeable about the flowers they sell. In the February 95 issue of Victoria is an article titled "The Soul of a Rose." It said, famed fashion designer Valentino once said that wearing roses gives a woman a tranquility of peace. Rilke also wrote, "Alone, extravagant bloom, you create your own space. Alone, you retrace your image in a mirror of perfume." Thomas More wrote a truth. "You may break, you may shatter the vase if you will, but the scent of the roses will hang round it still." That scent, that fragrance, may be the closest thing to a soul that the rose can aspire to. "You don't blast a heart open," she said. "You coax and nurture it open like the sun does to a rose." Quote from a book by Melody Beattie called "The Lessons of Love." Appropriate, I think, for that song by James Morrison. We are peering into a rose-colored dream now. It begins with Truman Capote. A restfulness arises from contemplating a quiet white rose until the rose expands into the whiteness of sleep. The dream continues. Lito Tejada Flores dreamt, "Roses as pale as dreams of other roses, dreamed by other roses." In this poem, the rose was not searching for darkness or science, borderline of flesh and dream. It was searching for something else. Richard Demel wrote, "Dark leaves trembling soft, these roses still cast light. In the grass I woke upright. Ah, if only you would come this dark, this deep midnight." And Edgar Allan Poe with the end of the rose dream. Was it not fate on this July midnight? Was it not fate, whose name is also sorrow, that bade me pause before the garden gate to breathe the incense of these slumbering roses? The name of the webcast is Valentine Hearts and Flowers. It was William James who knew that in the deepest heart of all of us, there is a corner in which the ultimate mystery of things works sadly. There is so much mystery in the fragrance of the rose, and also to be found deep within the heart. Henry Van Dyke, in his volume Collected Poems, said, "For love is but the heart's immortal thirst to be completely known and all forgiven." Antoine de Saint-Exupéry wrote, "It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye." Is there a secret language of the heart? If that's true, then the heart's language is not so easily deciphered or given voice to. It's a language that is ancient in nature. Our heart understands when another heart speaks the words that it longs to hear. This is an excerpt from the 1977 edition of the Friendship Book of Francis Gay, and I quote, "Computers aren't infallible. I'm reminded of this by the story of the bright young scientist who was at his great-grandparents' golden wedding party. Marvelous things, computers," he told his grandfather loftily. "Why, before I came here tonight, I calculated that in your 73 years, your heart has beaten exactly 2,664,521,800 times. Wrong, smiled Grandpa. Those last 3 figures should be $7.99. How'd you make that out? He demanded. Because, said Grandpa softly, the first time I met your grandma, my heart skipped a beat. End quote. Finally, it was Helen Keller who believed the best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart. Good night, sweet dreams. Happy Valentine's Day, and I wish you all the romance that follows. I'm Don Jackson.